Hey folks, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I just want to remind you about our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. We have a Facebook page. We would appreciate it if you like and follow. Also, join our discussion group on Facebook called After the Shadows. We have a Twitter feed. Please follow us on Twitter. It can be found with @podcast_from. Follow us on Instagram @From the Shadows Podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Go to the search bar of YouTube and put From the Shadows Podcast, and please subscribe to that channel. We are also on the Odyssey Radio Network, and we can be found there at odyssey1.com. We're still on the traditional podcatchers that everybody loves to listen to us on. We get a lot of feedback, so please rate the podcast and communicate with whether you're on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. We're there, and we appreciate it when you leave comments for us. Well, that's all I have for you right now, folks, and thanks for being a part of the From the Shadows podcast family. So with that being said, let's get this episode started. Now I'm going to turn you over to your host, Shanegrove.
Hey everyone, Shane Grove here, and I want to let you guys know that my book series, From the Shadows, is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. There are 3 different books available. There's Volume 1 and Volume 2, Return of the Lizard Man, and then there's a special screenplay edition which includes both Volume 1 and Volume 2 in screenplay format. So if you're a big fan of Bigfoot, lizard men, conspiracy theories, the X-Files, and mysterious men in black, I urge you to go and check out these books. And if you like them, you know what? Please leave me a great review. And if you don't like them, I apologize. So anyway, check them out. And if you really want a autographed copy, message me through From the Shadows Podcast, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks. Enjoy the episode.
So Howler, I'm proud to say I went out. I already got my voting done. You know, all the people on my mail route were worried about the mail-in voting and stuff, and I saw the box there in front of the courthouse so they could drop off their ballots and everything. And so I just said, you know what? My last day off, I went down in the basement of the courthouse and went ahead and voted. What's the feeling out there in the Ozarks?
You know, most people I know, of course, I come from a long line of political neophytes, if you will. They usually go up to the courthouse and vote absentee the day they can, first day they can, in case they die before the election.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You got to go early, or you know, you might die, have a heart attack or something, and there won't be nobody there to your vote won't count because you won't cast it, right? You won't cast it. So
nobody there to carry your vote.
Oh yeah, you know, but you talk about boxing down at the courthouse back in 25, almost 30 years ago now, when I was a lowly, however you say that, deputy sheriff. We used to carry those ballot boxes. And what really struck me, brought this in about 10 years ago when the Norm Coleman Minnesota Senators race, when Al Franken unseated Norm Coleman. About very late in the process, Norm Coleman was winning by, I'm going to make up numbers, 350 votes. And then all of a sudden they found the box with 450 Al Franken votes. And all the people in power talked about how airtight the political process is. You know, they didn't want to erode the confidence in the political process or whatever. And they must have a different process than I remember, because we used to drive around and pick them boxes up. I remember going down to my hometown, I lived in a little town outside the bigger town, and there was these old gals that ran, it's gone now, a little general store since 1909. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, not even school marm looking. I don't know, just old widow seamstress. What do you call them? I don't even know what you'd call them. You know, these old maid. That's what I'm looking for. Old maid. Yep. Old maids sitting there knitting in between people coming in and casting their vote. And they took these votes, and I ain't kidding you. It was like they were in these ballot boxes where these old galvanized things that looked like the remember the milk box on your phone?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It looked like a milk box. It looked like a square minnow bucket. You know what I mean? It was
square minnow bucket.
Yeah.
Hey, there's still people in Cyrus that have those. Has one of those milk boxes. It's got the styrofoam on the inside.
Yeah. You know the best way, people don't know what to make. If you go watch the movie Goodfellas, who's the bad guy in who's the good bad guy in wasn't it Goodfellas?
No, you're thinking about Chad Pellman.
No, I'm thinking Ray Liotta.
Oh,
pistol whips somebody and then puts the pistol, hide the gun, and she hides it in the milk box behind 2 glass bottles of milk.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Whatever movie that was. Well, it was Goodfellas. It was.
Yeah. Well, that was what? Was that Goodfellas or was that?
Yeah, it was Goodfellas. Yeah.
So anyway, they had these galvanized square boxes with a little slit in the top, and they had a little rinky-dink lock. It looks like something you'd put on not even a luggage lock. I don't even know what it was. They would carry 2 or 3 of these things, try to arm carry them out, or they'd get us stud deputies, and we tried to carry 3 or 4. So you made less trips. You drop stuff, and you'd try. If you filled your back seat of your car up, you put something in the trunk or whatever. And sometimes I don't remember. Sometimes they'd ride with you, sometimes they wouldn't. But anywhere in the process, I've watched all the Jason Bourne movies, so I know some stuff can happen. You know what I mean? So anybody could have, nefarious operatives could have introduced more milk cans full of votes, and then these same old gals come out and
I like how you made the jump from old maids to Jason Bourne.
Well, I was going to say, I flunked out of a Division I college. Okay, but some of these poll workers can't spell college, so they're in there counting and regulating this stuff, and I don't know if necessarily it's the airtightest thing in the. You know what I mean? I think in some ways trying to sneak in the county fair would be harder. Is more tightly regulated. The beer garden at the picnic is more tightly regulated than these dudes driving around picking these boxes up and bringing them up to the courthouse and stacking them up for a bunch of people that
should not be in charge of collecting.
Well, I don't know. This segues into a bunch of stuff, and I don't want to alienate any of my few fans, but America is an odd deal, right? Because we have people, because of the voting process, you have input on international geopolitical situations and history like no other country has, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to be, and half people can't even bounce a checkbook in this country.
Amen.
Or now we got these kids that can't. Well, us three, and some of the older listeners used to have to at least memorize your phone number. Remember that?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
And these kids don't even have to memorize their phone number, yet they know how the world works. Or they can't read a map, not phone and read it.
Maybe because they don't have to waste that space in their brain memorizing the phone number, they can know a little bit more about what's going on all over the world.
They don't. You know they don't.
I don't know.
Hey, I was trying to help the youth out a little bit, give them the benefit of the doubt.
I was at a deal. I went to a farm estate sale today. So, I was I was certainly brushed by all manner of worldly individual at a farm sale, full half normal. I don't want to say normal, half Christian and half Mennonites, and until you pull up and almost hit a buggy with 5 Mennonites getting out to go outbid you on something, you haven't you haven't really been around. You know what I mean? And and there was hats and flags at every event I go to. Now I won't say what party the person's at or whatever, but I just don't know. I just don't know about where I was even going with this thought. I'm so strung out now on the political process. But
well, what I was saying is, we could bring up here is we could congratulate Jason, the producer. We're talking about the courthouse. He's going to start a new job here in a couple of weeks with our very own, the judge.
That
is
true. And that segues into, I tried to write a pilot one time called The Courthouse. That's another topic. But, so when there's issues, a lot of times judges, first of all, I want to congratulate you, Jason. And that is, courthouses are their own little world. Some of them are larger than others, but they're all their own little world. And so, judges, when I was young, back in them days, if you got arrested in the state of Missouri, they could only, without a warrant, they'd only hold you for 20 hours. After the 20 hours, the jail would have to let you go unless you were officially charged. And that officially charged meant the prosecutor had a charging document that a judge signed off on, right?
Right.
So if you're working in the weekends, like I started out as just a punk in the jail, and always working the weekends, nights and the weekends. So people would get arrested Friday night or Saturday night. Saturday morning and Sunday morning, the on-call prosecutor, some of them were better than others, would come in there and say who you got sitting on 20 hours. And some of them were, if you had somebody just drunk in public or whatever, they didn't worry about it. But I mean, if you had a true assault, or if you had a real crime, they would want to get the paperwork taken care of to keep that person behind bars, or at least have them a bail set. Okay. Which led to me getting in the car and running this stuff over to the prosecutor to get this, or ultimately taking to the judge. And certain judges, I don't want to erode your confidence in, because they're elected here.
Including our very own judge.
Maybe they're sober enough to, sometimes they want you to read it. Or sometimes there's one old judge, and I think he's dead now, so I'll just say, I go out there and he'd be drunk in a hot tub with 2 or 3 old gals or whatever, and he'd say, let's read that thing to me. I don't want to get water spots on it. He'd be smoking and drinking. I'd read him. What's that guy's name? Say his name again. Say his name. Okay. I think I sent his daddy up. You know who his daddy? You know who his parents are? And you'd say, and depending on if you did, and you give him a little genealogy, say, oh, he ain't a bad kid. We're going to take this route. Or he'd say, well, by God, they didn't fall far from the tree. We're going to make it 10,000 cash only. And that is the criminal justice system as it used to be. I mean, maybe there's some pockets of Mayberry that they're still that way. I don't know, but at that time, so when we have these vast election fights and one party's going to sue the other party, you just hope that the deciding factors, and I don't want to rail on the legal profession, but you hope all parties involved are at least sober enough to read the filings, much less make an informed decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
I mean, but my gosh, I don't know. So, these elections we have are just rolling the dice a lot of times,
Right.
And the average person, this is the sad part, the average person, I wouldn't even have this conversation 40 years ago. Our parents and grandparents lived in a different America, right?
Amen. Yeah.
Where you didn't have to go very far to get crazy. You know what I mean? Crazy was a short trip.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've seen some of the things, now, I mean, just watch the news. I don't even have to rail on the people around here. I can just say, just look at the people out there in this country now. If you want crazy, all you got to do is walk out to the street. The lucky people have to go to the street. Unlucky people find it in their own house or building. But you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
The world is just insane. So I can only imagine where this is going to end up in a few years, unless that meteor hits. You see that meteor the size of a refrigerator supposed to hit us?
No, when's that?
Yeah, well, the little one's coming in the next month or two, but there's one the size of 479 meters, because the guy was trying to say that's the size, 379 meters. He was trying to say that was the size of 4 football fields. He obviously didn't know there was a difference between a yard and a meter, but I'll forgive him. It's supposed to hit 2029, and they're trying to decide if it's going to hit us and cause a life-altering event, or if it's just going to go past and we can look out and see it. But apparently they can track it. I was just trying to figure out how they can see something 9 years before it gets here.
Now that's a heck of an extrapolation right there.
Well, I'm sure it's all mathematics. That's how they can. But could you imagine something that big hitting? No?
It just makes the election just completely irrelevant. If you think this, because they said the refrigerator thing will either burn up, because if it reaches the surface the size of a refrigerator, it'd be like 10 Hiroshimas or something.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably about right. But hopefully it'll burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I know this is way deep for a normal howl. So I'm listening to this today. The guy says that, the speed of light, the flash is going to come at 186,000 miles an hour, but the shock is only travels, when you see it ripple through the earth, it only goes 400 meters a second, and it might wipe us all out. So if people really thought about how fragile the world is, maybe the election wouldn't seem that big a deal, right?
All right.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.